This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello everybody and welcome to Friday's Blood Red podcast on the Liverpool Echo channel. It's myself, Sean Bradbury, hosting today. There are 12 days to go till Christmas, but we've had two big presents today already. Well, this week already so far. We've had
Seamless.
I love it.
Yes.
We've had Jurgen Klopp's contract, of course, 5 more years with the big man. We've had Minamino, the announcement that he's expected to become a Red on the 1st of January. And I've got 3 gifts for you here. From left to right, I've got...
wise men.
3 wise men. Well, I was going to say that, but then I had a little thing. We've got Joe Rimmer. Joe, how are you getting on?
What do I have? Frankincense, myrrh, gold?
You get to choose first.
Frankincense?
Okay.
I've never known what frankincense is.
Well, if you've got it, you can tell us.
You went to Blue Coat. You should know.
No,
these things.
No. I had little gold bands, but we didn't have any frankincense.
No.
Or myrrh, for that matter.
Is it something smelly? Smells nice?
I think you do know what it is all along.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Joe with that. We also have the big man, Paul Gorst. Gorsty, what have you got for us?
I'll take the mare, because I have a few of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
What's myrrh?
Very good, very good.
It's a play on words, so you meant to leave it at that.
And we also have Matt Addison, who's bringing us gold. Matt, how are you getting on?
Yeah, I'll take gold all day long, yeah.
Excellent. Well, we'll start with the biggest news today. We thought Minamino was going to be the one and the main talking point today, but Jurgen's trumped that a little bit, hasn't he? Gorsty, we'll start with you. 5 more years of Jurgen. I have to say, I was a bit surprised by this. I didn't think, after his 7-year cycle and like the intensity, the relentlessness of what's been happening at Liverpool, I was a little bit surprised that we were going to get this announcement. Well, first of all, get it now, but possibly even at all. Was this a surprise for you? Did you see it coming?
It was a surprise. I was of the impression that Klopp had basically just run his contract down to 2022 and then looked to take a sabbatical and maybe pitch up at Germany or something like that. Liverpool played this very close to the chest. Virtually no one knew anything of it until it was getting announced. But it's fantastic news. I think it's been a great week for Liverpool, hasn't it? Qualification to the last 16 of the Champions League, and then the Minamino announcement, and now this is just the icing on top of the cake. So it's been a great week. Delighted that Jurgen Klopp's going to be staying at Anfield for a couple more years to take his tally up to 9 years, and I think now it kind of offers him the chance to build a little bit of a dynasty. Not too many Liverpool managers have had the chance to do that over the years. You think of Paisley, obviously Shankly. Maybe Kenny Dalglish, Joe Fagan to an extent, but a lot of managers haven't really stuck around long enough to do that. Some managers have obviously enjoyed success, Gerard Houllier and Rafa Benitez in recent years, but I think when Jurgen Klopp leaves Anfield now at the end of his new contract, 2024, you might be looking back and thinking of him as one of the all-time greats, because the trajectory that they're on at the moment shows no sign of slowing down, really.
Joe, the owners made it clear, I think it was ahead of the Champions League final, wasn't it, that obviously they wanted Jurgen to stick around. Did you see this coming though? Did you think it would happen so quickly?
I've got to be honest, I was gobsmacked. I was on desk here and you sort of find out about it, and we're just totally taken aback. I genuinely thought that the Klopp was just... was a 7-year sort of that was his cycle. That he's not a guy who likes to outstay his welcome. He likes to work to a certain rhythm and then move on, pitch up somewhere and be fresh somewhere new. And I'm absolutely delighted that he's decided to stay. I think it's so significant for Liverpool, and it's a huge almost relief and weight off your shoulders that you think, well, actually this guy's going to stick around a bit longer than we all thought, and see this project into even a second cycle, really, because I think now he'll probably have to look to build a whole new Liverpool team before he leaves, and it's going to be fascinating. I think it's massive for Liverpool. I think it's a huge boost. It's been one hell of a week. The club are very good, and the owners deserve all the credit in the world for just being... They're so tight on these things. They're so good, aren't they? I mean, you can't fail but to be impressed by how well they get these things done without any whispers, without any messing around. If you think about it, they flew in on Wednesday. Obviously, I'm pretty sure they weren't... This was just to put the finishing touches, but they did that behind closed doors. They got it done, and there's Jurgen smiling with his contract today. And brilliant news. It's a massive boost, and I think every other club in the Premier League and every one of Liverpool's rivals will think, bloody hell, just when you think they can't get much better, they go and do it.
Matt, our third wise man down the end there. What's your take? Because Klopp seems to indicate when he's been talking about today and in his press conference that it was quite an easy decision all told. And I think Joe's right. It's been a lid has been kept on it. No one's really been talking about it until today when everyone was talking about it. What does it say about the wider club and the FSG and everything that's in place? Because I think that in FSG's statement they said there could be no one better out there in the world than Klopp for Liverpool at the moment, and they're absolutely right, and they've got him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about it that there's no better manager in world football for me at the moment. I think Pep Guardiola's fantastic, but I think Jurgen Klopp is better. If you look at what he's done at Liverpool, the way that Liverpool have come on over the last few seasons, and sort of all the building blocks are there now, and he's obviously one of those. We've talked extensively about the new stand at Anfield, about the new training facility that's coming next year. Everything just seems to be in place to sort of keep going, really, what he's already put in place. And for him to say today it was an easy decision, I mean, okay, maybe it was, but it certainly came as a shock to me, and I'm delighted, obviously, that he's going to stick around. And sort of what he's done so far, I think he's already a Liverpool legend for the Champions League and what he's done to date. But just imagine by 2024, what can he achieve in that period? Who knows?
Gorsty, would you say, does this extinguish all talk of the German national team job, Bayern, even Barca? There's been tentative links with the boss going there. Do you think this is it now? He's going to be here for the duration?
Maybe. He actually said in our breakout part of the press conference today that if he finishes his career and he's only had 3 clubs, then he'll consider himself to have had a wonderful career. So maybe he is looking at it that Anfield might be his last destination. He's still only 52, to be fair. We know a lot of managers work up until, you look at someone like Roy Hodgson, he's in his 70s. Carlo Ancelotti is probably approaching around about that age. So it's not unknown for a manager to work past the normal age of retirement. But I just think the amount of energy and passion that Klopp puts into everything he does, sooner or later it might take it out of him somewhere down the line. So maybe Anfield could be his last stop. But if he runs to the end of his contract now, will be what, 56. Maybe there could be another extension on top of that, but for now I think Liverpool fans have just got to enjoy the here and now and really enjoy these extra 2 years that he's added onto his contract, because it's an absolute pleasure to watch his team week in, week out, and he's a fantastic manager, as Matt says, if not the best in the world, and certainly one of them.
Joe, if you were a manager of any other Premier League club, would you be shuddering at the thought of Jurgen sticking around, especially when so many of the other top teams are in transition? Guardiola must have been thinking, is there a point at which Klopp's going to go? And I suppose Klopp's thinking the same himself. But I think, as Gorst alluded to before, it does seem like Klopp's got the chance to kind of build a bit of a dynasty now.
Well, yeah, it was the one question, wasn't it, that we kept asking him the last few months after they won the Champions League. It was like, well, okay, he's got 2 years left in his deal. Who succeeds him? Would it be Gerrard? Would it be Linders? And I think it was the one thing that probably fans of other clubs and rivals would think, okay, well, all's going well now, but it could all collapse and fall apart when Klopp leaves. But for him to add a couple of more years onto it, I think rival managers will think, God, we've got to now take this Liverpool team on for the foreseeable future. And especially, Pep Guardiola, there was reports this week that there's a break clause in his contract at Man City at the end of this season, and I don't think any of us here would bet against him taking it. I think he looks like a man who is coming to the end of a cycle, whereas Klopp looks fresh. He's at the start of something. It looks like there's only one direction Liverpool are going, whereas City do feel like they're coming to the end. So I think it's massive. I think when you look at the other clubs, Man United probably wish they had a better manager. I'm sure they do. Arsenal are looking for a new one. Everton are looking for a new one. Tottenham have only just got a new one who doesn't tend to stick around. Would you bet on Mourinho still being there when Klopp's there in 2024? I don't think I would. I mean, Chelsea, brand new young manager. I'm sure the future is bright for Frank Lampard, but he's still very, very young at the moment. So, I mean, Liverpool are miles ahead of all of them in terms of City, the only ones that can say, yeah, we've got someone of the same calibre, and they don't know if he's going to be around. So, I mean, every other club must be so jealous of what's going on. It's natural, isn't it? You would be.
Matt, and lastly on Klopp before we move on then, what do you think of the timing of this? Because obviously we're getting to that point. near the end of the decade, and we've done a lot of kind of analysis ourselves of the Echo over the last few weeks of end of decade content, looking back at the last 10 years, and I guess looking ahead to the what may come in 2020 onwards. And the question of Klopp and who can follow him and his legacy is one thing that we've kind of looked into, but certainly until 2024, until almost halfway through the decade, FSG have emphatically answered that one now and pinned him down. So do you think the timing helps as well and will put some minds at ease?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just think that the whole timing and the whole stability thing, I know Klopp mentioned it in his press conference earlier about how, if he's talking to potential signings and talking about certain players coming into the club, then they need to know that he's going to be there. And he's a massive part of the reason why, I'm sure, a lot of the players that he has signed have chosen to come to Liverpool rather than somewhere else where maybe they would earn more money, or maybe early on in his Liverpool career they might have won more trophies even. But he's always talked about getting on the train and pushing it and getting on and getting on board with what he wants people to do. So I just think for him to have put down this marker, if you like, and said, I'm going to be here for a long time, we've got a group of players who are also going to be here for a long time as well, then it just sort of, it's such a strong position from which to build from. And I just think that can only be a good thing.
Right then, Gorsty, the second big talking point, the second gift of this week is Mr. Minamino. Almost feel like he's had his thunder stolen a little bit yesterday, even though we can't really talk about him, properly until the 1st of Jan. But Klopp was asked him about him in his presser today, and he kind of said, "Oh, don't want to speak about him, but I will say he's a very good player." Tell us about it then. What's the score? We're hoping he'll be unveiled as a Red very early next year.
It was funny actually, because there was a Japanese journalist in the press conference who was sitting next to me, and as I sat down, he kind of collared me for a couple of minutes chat for. I didn't quite catch who he worked for, but he said to me, "I'm pretty sure you know why I'm here." And then when he spoke to Jurgen Klopp, that was the first thing he said to him. And then Klopp kind of gave the game away a little bit when he said, "Maybe I'll be seeing you a little bit more then." As in, I'm not prepared to talk about any interest in Takumi Minamino yet, but the fact that he said that was quite telling, I thought. Klopp played a bit of a straight back with it other than that little comment. He was adamant that there's not much to say, but he did concede that he was a good player, as are several of Salzburg's other players. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a done deal for January, 7.25 million. Liverpool, we learned yesterday, privately feel that he's worth a treble that. And I'd go as far to argue he's worth more than that, because you see some of the prices now in the Premier League. Your standard decent player is £40 million. So I think Liverpool have got themselves a steal here. It's going to be someone who can play a number of positions across the front line, maybe as a number 10. Very hard working, presses from the front, very energetic. Seems technically gifted. We've seen that down the Anfield Road end, didn't we, with his volley for the goal. Looks like going to be a very good player for Liverpool. Someone who's going to bolster the squad with some real quality, and I think he might have a big role to play between January and May.
Joe, just talk us through yesterday, because you were in the office with Kiva and others when all this came out, and we did loads of stories on it yesterday, loads of good detail that came out. What was it like when all that was happening yesterday? Because I swaned in on the late shift, so
yeah,
I was reading
did.
All very good.
Yeah, again, it was a bit of a shocker. I mean, we've not dealt with a transfer for a little while for Liverpool now, have we? I mean, so it was exciting. I think with Minamino, the thing that struck me was, I don't know, you guys, you might have somebody else, but there's not many players, I think, that quite often when you watch Liverpool, you don't watch the opposition as much, and every now and again you'll watch a game and think, he's good, I'd love to see him sign for Liverpool. One that I always remember from years and years ago was watching Damien Duff at Anfield. I think Liverpool won 4-3 or something like that, or maybe Blackburn shaded the game, but I remember him giving Liverpool such a hard time, and at the time when I was young thinking, if they signed him, they'd win the title, and they just needed a winger, and he was so good. And Minamino was the same, really. He came in and totally took me by surprise. I hadn't really heard of him. He was brilliant at Anfield. I thought the other night, the little move that they played, the little 1-2, some of his passing looked great. And it was like, this lad's good. I never heard him sign him up. And they did. and I mean, it's not a done deal yet. I think it's there or thereabouts, but yeah, it was fascinating yesterday. Kiva was across Everton. She was brilliant. Some really fascinating detail about how the players had essentially got back into the dressing room afterwards and were joking with Klopp at Melwood, saying, get him signed up. And little did they know that Michael Edwards and Klopp had been working on a deal for a few months. I think they'd they'd been sort of getting the ball in motion since November. Had tracked his career. I think Liverpool had been aware of him back from when he was playing for Osaka, I think, in his homeland. I think he was partnered up with Diego Forlan when he was earlier in his career. So he's someone that Liverpool have been watching for a long time. And sorry, I'm distracted because of your phone, but mine's off.
Could be another sign in here.
Yeah,
you know.
It's not. It's my mother.
Unless, well, maybe it's another sign. They bring her in, but yeah. It was just a fascinating day, and also what was great was the reaction. We did a read with the Japanese supporters club, and they were really excited, and there were lots of people reading that, and it was great. I mean, it really was. It feels like for 7 million, such a bargain, such a special signing, and yeah, I mean, until we see him in action, we won't know just how good he is, but it's an exciting one, yeah.
Matt, get your take on it. Obviously, as Joe said, the detail coming out of the club is that they've been tracking it for a long time, and you know the Klopp's reaction when the players were asking about it. But we've had a good look at him in these 2 games, and although Salzburg didn't win either, the Reds got 6 points from them. He shone in both. What did you make of him when you were watching him?
Yeah, I mean, he was one of a few good players, to be fair, that Red Bull Salzburg have got. I think Haaland is an excellent player as well, but he was certainly one that you sort of looked at, and not just that you thought he was a good player, but you thought, I can see him in this Liverpool team. I think he's very versatile. I think that will help. I don't think Liverpool have quite got that sort of player that could fit into the style straight away, apart from those usual front three. I mean, obviously Divock Origi's done fantastically well and still is a really good player, but he's not quite perfectly suited, you would say, to that Liverpool team. The same with Shaqiri as well. I think he sort of comes in, and Liverpool have to change a little bit to sort of fit him into the team. Whereas I think with Minamino, he can just sort of slot into a couple of different positions really without Liverpool having to change their style or without having to play in a different way. So I think he's a perfect player to come into a Jurgen Klopp squad, and looking at his injury record as well, he seems to fit perfectly well there, and marketability as well is obviously not something that fans necessarily want to talk about, but it is something that Liverpool will have thought about, and with that Nike kit deal and with the Asian market becoming more and more important for them, it's just another tick in so many boxes for him.
Hey, look, for 7 million, I mean, they sold Kevin Stewart a few seasons ago for 7 million. It's an unbelievable amount of money. Liverpool essentially stole a march on Man United because Michael Edwards and his team have a good relationship with their counterparts at RB Salzburg, and we're aware of this clause. So, I mean, that sort of money, it is wonderful, considering, you know, that, like Gorst was saying, that the money that goes around. And one of the guys has had a look at stats. I mean, again, they don't tell the whole story, but I think if you look at the bare stats between him and, say, someone like Jadon Sancho, it's very, very similar. And for the price Liverpool are getting for this guy, I mean, perhaps he could be a very good alternative to Sancho. It's very interesting, and it's going to be fascinating to see how good he actually is in a Liverpool shirt.
I think a lot of credit has to go to the scouting departments as well, because it's more than just looking at a player and looking at his raw numbers. I think this goes into how they've been able to manage the fact that there's a release clause of you know, such a small number, and none of the other big clubs who were after him were aware of it at all. I mean, that's good scouting, isn't it? And it also means that they haven't just decided to buy him because he had a decent game at Anfield, you know, 2 months ago. They've basically been keeping an eye on him for quite some time at Salzburg. They know that Salzburg create players who are ready to take that next step to a big club in Europe. So I think once they've been made aware of this release clause and the fact that they've scouted him extensively enough, they've been able to just move and basically being quite ruthless in the transfer market. So I think a lot of credit does have to go to obviously Michael Edwards and the scouting team, which is Barry Hunter and the other fella. Can't remember his name now. Barry Hunter and...
What's his name? Yeah, the other guy from Man City.
Mr. Fallows?
Dave Fallows, yeah. Head of recruitment and the chief scout.
It's good. They've cut out the middleman as well now, haven't they? Usually players go from Salzburg to another club.
Yeah.
And then Liverpool are going, you know what, they're that good, we'll just get them straight away.
Just nip in. You've talked a little bit about him already, Matt, but what would your instincts be? Do you think it would mean anything for like other members of the squad, the fact he's coming in? I guess he's so versatile that you couldn't say, well, he's coming in to replace, you know, you couldn't pick a name out and say he's coming in to replace him in the squad. So do you think it's not going to have a knock-on effect in that way?
Not necessarily. I mean, he's going to have to sort of fit in at some point. I mean, if you think back to the start of the season, there was a couple of sort of names that you would expect to have made the bench on a couple of occasions who didn't. I think maybe there was might have been Adam Lallana who missed out a couple of times, and you do think when everyone's fit, then potentially there might be a bit of an issue there. But you know, how often is that the case? I mean, apart from at the start of the season, you don't really get periods of a campaign where everybody is fit. So bringing him in and being able to use him, you know, as I said before, he's a slightly different player to what Liverpool have got. My initial reaction when it happened was not really about the players who are there now. It was more, what's Harry Wilson going to do next season? Is that the end of him? Maybe that's the knock-on effect rather than, say, a Shaqiri or an Origi.
Perhaps. Last one on this then, Gorst. I've got to ask. Now we're on transfers. Do you think there will be any more January business? In one of the FSG statements today, I think this was actually in reference to Klopp, but they mentioned the idea of strengthening from a position of strength. And obviously, here's one deal we expect to be sealed right at the start of the window. Do you think it could herald any more?
I wouldn't have thought so. I think this has very much been an opportunistic transfer from Liverpool. I mean, they've obviously kept tabs on him, but once they've been made aware of this 7.25 million release clause, that's when they've acted. I don't really think they've got the money or the need to recruit heavily in January. Everything seems to be going swimmingly. They just need possibly one or two tweaks here and there. They could certainly do with another left fullback and another right fullback, but I don't think either of those will be coming in January. It is just a case of operating when a chance presents itself, which it has done with Minamino. I don't see any more, big money additions in January. But it's not needed at the moment, is it? Let's face it. No,
absolutely not. Right then, Joe, we'll move on to tomorrow. The Watford game. Top plays bottom, and there couldn't be much more of a gulf between the two teams. But Klopp was asked today about, obviously, the game tomorrow that's facing this side. And I think he said all analysis has got to go in the bin, because obviously they've sacked Sanchez Flores and Pearson's come in. So what do you think? Is it taking on a slightly different challenge in that context?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you'd have asked me a couple of weeks ago, I'd have said they're flattened Watford, and it wouldn't be much of a contest. I still think Liverpool will win. I still think they'll probably win handsomely, but I think Watford now under Pearson might be a little bit of a different prospect. The only thing I do wonder is whether for a manager like Pearson, do they have the players that can operate in his system? I'm not 100% sure, because I think Watford's have such a strange turnover of players. That can't be the case. So it's interesting. I think their back line is, I was looking at it the other day, I think in that back line is a couple of free transfers. I think that one of their players was 2.5 million. Cathcart's been there for years. You wouldn't expect them to have the pace or the nous to be able to deal with Liverpool's front three. So I think, if Liverpool just play their regular game, they'll get past Watford with ease. I think Klopp will make a few more changes tomorrow with the Club World Cup coming up. I think it's a fairly straightforward one. Perhaps, will they win 5 or 6-0? Probably not. Will it be 2 or 3-0? Yeah, I think so.
Gorst, are you expecting some new manager bounce tomorrow for the visitors, or cruising for the Reds?
It's difficult to look past the Liverpool win for this one, isn't it? Even with the new manager bounce, as you say, Liverpool have scored 16 goals in the last 3 home games against Watford, the bottom of the league. They've only scored 9 goals. Can't really see anything other than a Liverpool win, if I'm being honest, thankfully.
And Matt, what's your take? As Gorst, he said 9 points for Watford, already lost 9, only scored 9, so doesn't feel like they'll carry much threat either.
No, I mean, I think from their perspective, if you said to them it finishes 2 or 3-0, they'd probably take that.
Yeah.
I mean, with that being the case, you'd think it'd be fairly straightforward. If Liverpool can get, say, 2 goals up by half time, then it might just be one of those games where, the second half becomes a bit of a dead rubber, and I think that'd be absolutely ideal, to be honest, at this moment in the season.
Absolutely, with busy December to come. Right then, picking our team is one of the final 2 tasks. Gorsty, what is...
in your little tasks?
Yeah, I've got a little list, let's be prepared, for the team, obviously, injury situation, that was discussed again in the press conference today.
Yeah.
Is centre-back options pretty much is the only fit too, I presume?
Yeah, Gomez and Van Dijk. It's a worry now, isn't it? Because Joel Matip's going to be out till the new year. Dejan Lovren, Klopp was a little bit coy on that, as he usually is with injuries. He could be out for another couple of weeks. He walked past me and a couple of others in the mix zone on Tuesday night and didn't look happy. He was limping and kind of muttered that it might have been a hamstring. So that could be another few weeks. So yeah, it's going to have to be Gomez and Van Dijk, isn't it? And maybe you're struggling to think of who a third centre-back might be. Don't think Sepp Van den Berg's ready. Keanu Hoover's had, 2-3 senior appearances. So it might be a tough few weeks in that position.
So it's got to be those two. Full-backs then, Joey, are you going with the two main men for this one?
I was thinking about this. I think it does. The problem with the centre-half problem is it has a knock-on effect, doesn't it? So you look at Gomez, can't play. He can't play right back now. So, look, I wouldn't bet on it, but I suspect he might think about perhaps Milner in one of those full-back positions tomorrow, just to give one of those two a rest, because they're not going to get much of a rest now going forward. And looking at the games ahead, well, perhaps the Club World Cup semi-final, but I've got a feeling they're going to take that pretty seriously.
Yeah.
So Watford might be the one where you rotate there. So saying all that, I'll go for Trent and Robertson.
Well, that's our back line then. Matt, I guess, question we'll start with in midfield then. Is it a hat-trick for Keita? Would you stick with him after two good showings?
I think I would. I am a big fan of Naby Keita, and I think the fact that he's come in and he's done so well, to take him out, I think would just be a little bit too harsh. I think once you've put him into that rhythm, you've just got to keep him in there. So I think I'd be finding a way of putting him in there. At the same time, you don't want to put him in too many times and then he picks up another injury, as we know he's susceptible to doing. But yeah, I think I'd definitely play him in there. I think probably we'll see Wijnaldum. I think probably Henderson as well.
We've all said Keita needs rhythm, so I'd concur with that. Do you reckon that is the three, gents? Henderson, Wijnaldum?
I think Lallana might start, actually. I think he could play that number 6 role. I think this type of game is exactly why he was learning that role in pre-season, so I think he might start. And I think the other one, probably a toss-up between Henderson and Wijnaldum.
So yeah, I'm on board with Keita. I'd like to see him carry on starting. I think he's playing some really good stuff. Thought Tuesday night, probably, I think he could go as far as saying it was his best game for the club. Think he was really, really good. Is starting to really find his groove, and it'd be a shame to see him drop out the team. But saying all that, with the important games to come, that at a couple of games, not many players, unless you're in that spine, are playing game after game, are they? Now he seems to be rotating. So I personally think that he might bring him out and put Oxlade-Chamberlain in the midfield. I could see Lallana starting. So perhaps like a Lallana, Henderson, Oxlade-Chamberlain, or Lallana, Henderson, Wijnaldum, Oxlade-Chamberlain midfield.
Okay, so decisions to make there. And the forward line, Gorsty, we'll start with you. Is it the usual suspects or another rest for one of them?
I think I might rest Firmino, actually. Play Mane, Salah and Origi. I think Salah's goal would have done him a world of good. It was a great finish, wasn't it? A tight angle. He's now level with Mane in the goal scoring chart, so let them play and fight it out and get a hat-trick each.
I'll take that, yeah. Matt, Firmino rested? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what I was going to say, to be honest. I just think Mo Salah obviously got his goal and has an excellent record against Watford as well. I think, did he score 4 against them as well? Yeah. So I think you've got to play Salah. I think probably Origi will come in, play off the left, and maybe one of Salah or Mane through the middle potentially. I think Mane played there last year through the middle, didn't he, against Watford and did well. That was the back heel goal, I think.
Origi scored that one, didn't he?
Yeah.
Origi scored the opener. Yeah.
On the left,
so possibly we'll see that again. But if the job is done by an hour or so in, then give them a rest, take them off.
Do you have a shout for Shaqiri or anyone, or how would you play it?
I wouldn't be surprised if he does that. I think there is a potential for a bit of a Everton style change up tomorrow, but yeah, if I was betting, Origi, Mane, Salah, I think Firmino might be the one that has a rest, because he doesn't get too many, does he? Firmino, he seems to be the one that sticks around. So yeah, I think I'd go with that.
Cool. Predictions then. We'll come back along the line. Matt, you first.
I will say 3-0. I think it'll be another clean sheet, fairly comfortable.
Gorsty?
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. I can't really see Watford troubling the build too much. Famous last words maybe, but yeah, 3-0.
Joe?
Yeah, clean sweep. I think they could make Liverpool work in the first 20. Couple of nervous stomachs, and then bang bang, Liverpool go 2 up, and then when you think it's going to be 6, they just get a third and declare, because they seem to be good at that now. Liverpool don't. They just winning a game and then just going, right, we'll just pass it round now, and all right, they don't blow teams away, but they get the job done and have a nice rest, which is exactly what you want.
Okay, well, I'll go 4-0, but I do agree they'll conserve a bit of energy at the end, and plenty of games left to come in December, so yeah, I'm sure that will be part of the plan. Nice one, right? Well, that'll do us for today's Blood Red, and we will be back on Monday, of course, when we've got, well, there's plenty, isn't there? There's Champions League draw, there's a press conference ahead of Villa. God knows what else would have happened. Mbappe,
they'd have flown out to Qatar as well.
Yeah, of course.
To become hopefully world champion.
Yeah, indeed.
Another busy day.
Yeah. Excellent, yeah. So thank you for listening. Nice one.